So, Sonny, from Victor's reporting, it appears like the school didn't hand over basically all the tapes. What do you make of that?
It's really curious at best, and I'll tell you, usually when you're investigating a case, you don't ask the school or whichever custodian of the records to give them to you. You go and you retrieve them.
Right, especially because the school could be facing some kind of liability.
Exactly.
Perhaps.
So it just really doesn't make sense. It's not how investigations typically are conducted, and you don't only ask for a specific amount of tape. You ask for tape, you know, a month's worth or 3 weeks worth. So it's just very curious that this is how it was conducted.
Do you find it odd, Jeff, that it was left up to the school to do this?
Well, yes, it's odd, but it also is the way life tends to work in these sorts of investigations. Stuff is lost. Stuff is never found. I mean, this is it was a chaotic, bad investigation from the start. They are now trying to reconstruct it a year later, which just makes the task even more difficult. So, yes, it's too bad, but it is not really surprising that you can't reconstruct exactly what was on the surveillance cameras.
The other thing I don't understand is that Victor reported a couple of weeks ago that there are basically two different reports by the coroner. There's big discrepancies. There are basically two different versions of the coroner's report from the death investigation. And they're dated a week apart. There was the one that was given to Victor, given to CNN, and then there's the other one that he got a hold of. I want to read an example. In the version that Victor got through the coroner's office, in the comment section it says, quote, "I do not approve the manner this case was handled." This from the coroner. "Not only was the scene compromised, the body was moved, the integrity was breached by opening a sealed body bag. Information from my lawful investigation was withheld," which sounds very serious. And then the version that was dated a week earlier that was obtained through the police department, that comment section was empty. Does that seem... how is that...
I've never seen anything like that. I'm sure you haven't either. And it's interesting because when I first heard about this case, I was skeptical and I thought, but for this to be true, what the parents are alleging, you would have to have a cover-up involving so many different entities. You'd have to have a cover-up involving the school, involving law enforcement, involving the coroner's office, and they should all be pointing the finger at the other at this point, and that wasn't happening. Well, now we see that perhaps that has been happening. You have a coroner saying, you know, listen, my investigation was flawed from the beginning because law enforcement officers at the scene didn't help me. The body bag was compromised. I've never seen anything like that, and you're starting to think it's a CYA kind of situation.
Well, I mean, that could be you could say it's some sort of a cover-up. You could also say that maybe it's them just trying to cover their shoddy work.
Who made the mistakes? But again, you know, the big picture here is, I think we all want to find out, was there a murder?
Right.
If so, who did it? These kind of mistakes make that all the more difficult.
And as you say, given the amount of time that's passed, the shoddy collection at the scene initially, and the shocking removal of the organs of this young man. I mean, his organs were replaced. Nobody is saying who took out his organs and replaced them with newspaper, which, again, just seems like something I've never heard of.
And no one's ever heard of it. And again, if you look at each individual situation, you think, well, you know, mistakes are made. Sometimes videos are erased. Sometimes autopsies are done incorrectly. But all of these things exist in this one particular case. That is curious at best. And
as you say, the passage of time makes it so much harder. You know, the surveillance cameras with the blood on the wall, the blood is gone. With the shoes that were apparently on the floor, no one knows what happened to those shoes.
If there's blood on a wall, even if it's near a crime scene, you would think testing that blood would be a pretty obvious thing to do.
It's investigation 101.
It certainly is curious, but I also would like to put in a vote for at least the possibility of incompetence and mistake rather than some sort of malevolence.